Map is going to be King Sejong Station because we are in Canada, so we will always be starting on the winter maps. It's one of the requirements for the event.
It's Frozen Temple, actually. So
Frozen
surprise.
Temple. Whoops. All right. Well, here we are, starting down in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, on top of the yellow Zerg player from Team Envious. Put your support forward for Violet.
And in the top left, as the blue Terran, he is Jason.
All right, so Zombie Grub, you know as well as I do that this map is notorious for a very particular kind of build from Terran players.
Oh, that one. Yeah, the 2-1-1, right?
No. 3 Rax Reaper, insanely common on this map.
Yeah.
But because it's so insanely common, I feel like we don't see it as much anymore. But at the same time, early pull from Violet, almost as if preparation for it.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, you're right, kind of like the deal is that it's so common that a lot of Terrans don't want to use it. The one that will use it almost every single time is Euthermal, because his macro game behind 3 racks is just like, oh, I didn't 3 racks at all. Like, don't worry about it. Might as well not have. But Jason not going to be going for the 3 racks. You're right. Violet's still preparing for that possibility. They'll go for an early pool. Because he went for the early pool, and soon enough he'll find out that it's not a 3 racks. He can actually still, like, try and get lings around the map if he wants to do that.
It's so funny, though, because I say all of that, and at the same time, I'm thinking, it's Violet, though. Was he just planning to go for a spawning pool anyways early? Is this just going to be one of those weird times? Makes a couple of Zorgans, tries to get a cancel, or even just a delay on the natural command center?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the most annoying thing you can do. I mean, if they get caught, it's quite annoying for the Zerg, I would say. But if it doesn't and it gets that kill in the SCV, it brings Reaper entirely back home. The chances of a cancel is very, very low because he's not following with like super fast speed. But that's exactly what he's trying to do here. He's going to send the Lings down. The Overlord's going to see the Reaper, actually, but only, of course, one at a time. And he should be able to get that kill in the SCV, I would say.
Yeah, there isn't going to be another Reaper being made for Jason. He's just made that one, and he is going to be making a reactor. So he's going to have absolutely nothing to kill those 2 Zergans, except for his SCVs and maybe some hopes with some drilling.
Yeah. And by the way, he's actually going for the 2-1-1 build, so I was just predicting the future.
Clearly.
I know my stuff, man.
Yeah.
Good control in the SCV, though. Of course, this is something that is somewhat expected. Again, like the mind games on like what build is expected on this map versus the counter versus the micro counter basically here. So the Reaper did come back in a pretty relatively short time. That's one downside about Frozen Temple. Unlike like the bigger maps where if you get the Lings unscouted, you're basically going to get the SCV. The Reaper can come home pretty quickly. So that was some nice, just reaction from Jason, immediately knowing what to do.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like this series is going to really be a lot about, for Jason, getting past the mid-stage game, where he is going to be able to power out into macro, because I feel like that's his biggest strength. As a player, he usually does better and better as the game goes on into those macro stages of the game. In a lot of ways, he is an up-and-comer that's similar to Poke Bunny, but stylistically, I feel like he's almost a complete opposite.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's going to be pretty difficult, I would say, to actually catch someone like Violet off guard. I mean, it also depends on what type of game that Violet's going to play. So for no Roach Warren, just the Ling speed, but he's still, of course, macroing up. You could decide later. But Jason, I mean, the whole power of 2-1-1 is actually funny, all right? Like, I've always been a believer of the 2-1-1 just because we cast a lot of Yun, of course. I regularly cast a lot of Yun, and he uses it to just the maximum potential. But
like Marines?
Some of the other...
You can kill infinite numbers of units with Marines, right?
Exactly, right? But some of the other Zerg actually say that it's very comfortable for them now to defend against it. So I wonder where Violet sits on that. And a lot of it is going to have to come down to the execution of Jason. Like, don't lose the first 2 medevacs immediately. Like, like the guy would do if I run him across the map. But keep him alive, you can continue harassing for a very long time.
Yeah, I know you're a big believer in just the idea that you try and go for free damage with the initial 2 medevac drop, and you're not necessarily trying to trade out for crazy amounts of damage. You're really just trying to put pressure on, force out units, and do the big follow-up attack with all those units.
Yeah, I do like that a lot. And actually, we're still going to wait and see what Jason's deciding to do here. We're going to the 3rd CC or for that follow-up. Because, I mean, short map, Frozen Temple, a tank push can be effective, but 3 CC might be more comfortable for Jason.
Yeah, 3CC would be really nice, allowing him to get into that macro game. But of course, again, I always feel like I have to bring this up. Violet is one of those players. You're always a little bit worried about him throwing something really crazy at you.
Yeah, and there's actually the tank production. You need to get a tech lab on that factory, so... Still waiting on Ava's the 1 Junior or 2, but here comes the drop, so gotta focus on that first. Violet is just sticking with Lings right now. There's only getting the Carapace, even though I got 2 Evolution Chambers.
Yeah, very interesting. I wonder if that's a mistake.
there you
There's the
go.
range
Missile.
upgrade.
Oh, nope. Just kidding.
Oh,
It is melee.
All right, so a bit of indecision from Violet over there, but he does finally commit to the melee upgrade. He's still going to get up this Roach Warren to help deal with this aggression as well as, I guess, supposedly the follow-up, but Zorn's got a full surround. Jason's going to have to pick up pretty soon.
Not bad. You know, Stutter Stepping taking out the Lings as well. Loses about a medevac worth of unit. I wouldn't say that was terrible. I did see the appeal of Jason to Stutter Step too, because you were going off of creep, you know, and if you're far away from the queens, then you actually can take a pretty good engagement, but not exactly perfect. And the follow-up is going to be actually the 3cc before any engineering bays. Still waiting on those.
Yeah, still gonna end up being a bit behind on those upgrades. I mean, by the time those upgrades get started for Jason, Violet's gonna be almost more than halfway finished.
Yeah, Frozen Temple, one of those shorter wall-offs in the natural. It's just that usually you would see the Terran just, you know, basically to make sure they don't get counterattacks. That's a pretty common response to the build. Slap down the engineering base to fill the wall off, but I guess he wasn't in such a paranoid hurry. And here comes the push. The creep actually hasn't gone extended that much thanks to the earlier aggression. It might get cleaned up even further. There you go.
Yeah, this is a really, really scary place and position for Jason to get set up because those Sea Shanks on the low ground are very difficult for the Zerglings to get on top of. You really need to make room for your Queens to get on top of those Sea Shanks, so really be able to surround them and push them back. But Jason getting very, very forward over here, killing off a lot of the Zerglings with those Sea Shank shots already. Roach is coming out at the same time, and a Ravager also getting in the mix, but Sea Shank's going to stay alive for now.
Not a bad start to this push at all. There's actually the Lings going down like that made the tanks a lot easier to control, although a Ravager shot did hit them. He's not picking it up either.
Sea Shank on the low ground, still getting some damage done, but it is, oh my god, he's actually not going to pick it up. He's going to opt to save the Marines instead.
I'm just wondering where his other medevacs were. I would have expected some to be rallied through, but maybe he missed the production on them, or maybe they're just simply back at home. That's actually really unfortunate he lost both tanks then.
Yeah, it looks like he did actually have those medevacs back at home, sitting with a couple of Marines, clearing off some of the overloads around the map. But yeah, losing those Sea Shanks is a really big deal because I think now Violet is just going to feel a lot more comfortable about getting into the next stage of the game. But oh my god, Violet making some of those Overlord drops.
Oh, that is also interesting, but I was owing because the upgrades still haven't started for Jason.
Oh.
Yeah, that is actually, the beginning of that push was like decent. It wasn't even that great at the end, but then forgetting about those upgrades too, because the upgrades should just be like so far ahead. Although Violet goes for, he delayed his lair, okay, so his don't start immediately, and he also adds on +1 missile, so all upgrades in the course of the eventual roaches. That's interesting.
Yeah, gonna be a little bit strange. As soon as that lair tech finishes up, I am expecting that we'll see Violet go straight into the 2-2 upgrades and still maintain a bit of a lead. But Overlord drops getting ready, loaded up with purely Zerglings. No Baneling Nest or anything was thrown down, so can't go for any kind of Baneling drops. But still, Jason, depending on where he is on the map, which by the way, he's kind of out in the middle of the map right now, he may not be prepared to deal with this.
Yeah, and the Stutter Step once again, he doesn't have enough yet to pick up the medevacs, and that's pretty safe. But the 16 Lings, man, that this guy should do a devastating amount. They could go for the upgrades, but I think the SCVs are free targets.
Yeah, I think SCVs would definitely make the most sense. If he was able to take out those upgrades, though, that would probably be one of the worst situations for Jason, who wants to bring it to the late game, but Zorgn's also running into the third expansion.
Oh my god, they get in everywhere. The natural as well. Everything's being pulled within a more Zerg army.
Oh, SCV is going the wrong way, and the Zerglings get let into the main base once again. They don't even need the Overlords to make it back in over here. It just seems like Violet is overpowering Jason as he drops down 40 workers and still falling.
Yeah, it's actually this is actually been a very interesting game from Violet. I really ended up liking what he did here, being very, very explosive. It totally goes in line with what you were saying about Violet too. Like, what is this attack, right? GG.
Violet taking game number 1.